This is Luton, a town with a lot to offer its 200,000 plus residents. Like its green spaces to pass time in, its university hospital to treat patients at, and its own football club to win football matches with, and the odd championship final, I'll have you know. But it also has a lot of things missing from it, like a decent central train station for starters. Nice clock faces though, and these ones actually tell you the time, unlike what was there before. Other than that, it also lacks a purpose-built theatre, and that's what this video is all about. As I was saying, one of the things my hometown hasn't had for decades now is a purpose-built theatre. I mean, sure, modern-day Luton does have small theatres with less than 300 seats each, like Luton Library Theatre, attached to Luton Central Library, and the Hancock's Theatre, located in the outskirts of Luton, attached to Lee Manor High School. But none of these are discrete buildings, i.e. standalone buildings doing their own thing. And neither of them house anywhere near 1,000 seats, let alone 1,500. Well, believe it or not, Luton had at least 3 such venues during the last century, and all 3 housed at least 1,500 seats. And they were the Grand Theatre, which opened in 1898 and got demolished in 1959. The Alma Theatre, which opened in 1929 and likewise got demolished in 1960. And the Palace Theatre, which opened in 1912 and, you guessed it, got demolished in 1983. And given that all 3 stood within a half-mile radius of each other in the town centre, you can imagine how spoilt for choice Lutonians were back then, unlike now. Whatever the reasons were for their disappearance, I for one think it's a shame that none of these fine buildings have made it to the present day. But why should anyone else be bothered by the lack of such buildings in the town today, you might be asking? Well, what bothers me is how strange and unfair this lack of a purpose-built theatre in Luton is for the town's many talented people. In case you didn't know, Luton has been home to a lot of famous entertainers, including actors Neil Jackson, Colin Salmon, Sean Gallagher and Lee Ross, actor and stand-up comedian Emily Atack, stand-up comedian and quizzer Paul Sinha, and singers Brenda Edwards, Jamie Hensley from boy band Union J, singer and songwriter Miles Smith, all 3 members of female soul group Voices with Soul, and 80s pop icon Paul Young. So if you ask me, it doesn't make sense, or at least not good sense, that a town which has a proven track record of churning out talented people like the aforementioned and many more hasn't had a discrete theatre built for them to showcase their talents in since 1957. When the last such venue in town closed its doors for the very last time. That's this one, by the way, the Grand Theatre. The other two had got repurposed by the time this one closed down and, got demolished. I mean, yes, it's true that none of today's famous Lutonians were prevented from achieving success due to the lack of a purpose-built theatre in the town they grew up in. But imagine if they did have such a theatre in their own hometown. Perhaps they would have begun their careers closer to home rather than move out of town to do so. And imagine how many more Lutonians would have been encouraged to pursue their acting careers if they could have pursued them here rather than be discouraged from doing so due to the costs associated with relocating. Perhaps there'd be even more famous Lutonians for the UK to be proud of. So, spurred on by the absence of such a venue, I've decided to come up with my own design for a purpose-built theatre in Luton, the first in over half a century.
Disclaimer alert. Just so you know, I'm not a professional architect. Just a Lutonian who cares passionately about his hometown and edits videos for a living.
Nevertheless, I've designed this theatre with a Year 3 architecture student. So the design you'll see is the result of a collaboration, a joint effort by someone who knows a great deal about architectural design and someone who knows a lot less about it. So this, ladies and gentlemen, is... Actually, wait. Before I show you what we've designed, let me tell you what else I've had in mind. Nice rhyme, don't you think? You see, anyone who knows a good deal about Luton's history over the past 200 years will know that a number of stylish buildings of great local significance have long ago disappeared from its streets and from its skyline. Other than the theatres mentioned earlier in this video, these included the Carnegie Free Library, financed by and named after Scottish-American philanthropist Andrew Carnegie, pictured here in Luton on the day of its opening, and the Platt Halls, which were an indoor market specialising in straw hats when they opened in the late 1860s. You know, part of Luton's famous hat industry of the time, commemorated by the town's football club. Buildings like these did not stand the test of time for a number of reasons, the most common being structural issues, and very rarely as a result of a riot. One of these buildings, the loss of which I feel is a huge loss to Luton, is its corn exchange. I mean, look at its handsome neo-Gothic design, characteristic of the Victorian period in which it was built. Arched windows and entrances, pointed clock tower and a spire on the side. What a sight for passers-by, and not just for those walking right next to it. You could even see it from the other end of George Street, Luton's centuries-old Main Street, where the town hall is, with its impressive Art Deco clock tower and Greco-Roman columns and pediment at the front, standing behind the town's beloved war memorial. Two lovely buildings facing each other in 19-something. Thank goodness for these old photos. This structure in front was a drinking fountain dedicated to the memory of local bureaucrat Lieutenant Colonel Lionel Ames, who laid one of the foundation stones of the long-lost corn exchange behind. Officially known as the Ames Memorial, locals called it the Pepper Pot. See? But that too is long gone. Opened in 1869, a year after building work on it began, the Corn Exchange served a number of functions during its lifetime. It held important events, hosted a popular cafe, and hung billboards like this one showing a thrush wearing a boater hat getting locals to join savings groups. It stood on this spot known as Market Hill for over 80 years until it got taken down in the early 1950s due to the low quality of building material used to build it up in the first place. Someone was cutting corners even back then, eh? The council decided it was cheaper to pull it down than to fix it. But still, what a shame this beautiful building is no longer there, serving as a local attraction and being a source of pride for the town. And for a town like Luton that's built up a not so great reputation over the past how many years, to still have a building like this would have meant a lot. With that said, let me present to you Luton's future theatre! As you can already tell, the tower is inspired by Luton's long-lost Corn Exchange. From its arched entrances on the very bottom to its glass spire at the very top. Above the LED panels are window frames likewise inspired by those on the old building. And why just have one spire on the side when you can have four, crowning these Gothic-style buttresses? Adorning its exterior are these diamond-shaped panels, which glisten in front of this winding curtain wall embracing the building. Above them all are these cascading plant holders, part of a rooftop garden open to the public. And below them is this glass ceiling, above the all-important auditorium, which we'll see in just a moment. Through the arches to the box office we go, where you can book your tickets and wait in the foyer before the show begins. Feeling thirsty? Then take the lift to the first floor cafe, where you can take your order and a seat by the window or by this mural. We've got a bar on the second floor, behind the polygonal window frames outside. Oh look, double doable. And now to the very top of the tower, where you'll find a balcony-side garden shop and cafe complementing the rooftop garden just outside, and your 360-degree view from the top through this 14.5 meter tall glass spire. You can have a different view from the top along with some shade on a bench next to the plant-coated fly tower instead, while props are being unloaded on the ground for a performance inside. Quick, a show's about to start. Here's the auditorium's multi-purpose stage, with enough space for an orchestra pit below, all for the enjoyment of a seated audience of just over 1,400. Sunlight or no sunlight? That's the question. Hey! So whether it's plays you want to marvel at, with hundreds of theatre goers around you, or concerts you want to revel in, this venue will have a seat with your name on it. Imagine this being Luton's future theatre. What a dream come true that would be. Feel free to pause this video to take a closer look at any of the 2D visuals of the theatre building, all produced by the talented Baiyan Tong at Tong.arc, as was the spectacular walkthrough you've just seen. And shout out to DJ Lumidelic at Lumidelic, the producer of the exciting soundtrack you've been listening to. now that we've all been dazzled by these renders, it's time for us to talk about two very important issues: the cost of building this fine building and the potential location of the same. Let's start with everyone's least favorite topic when it comes to anything in life: the cost. This is a list of the materials needed to build a building, along with the estimated cost of each of them. From reinforced concrete to triple glazing units, and from theatre stage rigging to the planting for the rooftop garden, the estimated total for all of these materials is £9.7 million. Almost 10. Of course, there are other issues to take into account, like labour costs and various running costs. And if we assume that 1 square metre of this building will cost a contractor between £1,890 and £3,010, and then multiply those figures by the building's gross internal floor area of 7,700 square metres, then we'll get a range between £14.5 and £23.1 million. And that's just for the building itself, including the 10 million mentioned earlier. External work like excavating the site prior to laying the structure's foundations, and later laying out a driveway around said foundations, could be assumed to be 15% of our estimated range, which would amount to somewhere between £2 and £3.5 million. And anyone who knows anything about building budgets knows that they often go over budget for a number of reasons, like inflation or issues arising on the site like an archaeological discovery. Imagine Wenlock junk, but on steroids. So it's worth adding a contingency allowance of 10% to our estimate. To sum it all up, get it? Sum it all up? One can safely assume that this whole project will cost somewhere between 20 and 30 million pounds. On the flip side, there's also the profitability of this venue to consider. Assuming it'll host 4 events a week, every week, in its auditorium at 75% capacity, and if each theatre ticket costs, say, £27.50, then this theatre could rake in £6.4 million a year from box office sales alone. Moreover, for every pound spent on a theatre ticket in the UK, an additional £1.40 is spent on businesses surrounding such venues like restaurants and hotels. And should this theatre earn over £6 million a year every year, then Luton would be onto a major money spinner here. And now let's talk about the potential location of this theatre. After all, I do want it to become a real building based in a real place, and preferably somewhere in Luton. It's in the title of this video, remember? So, bearing in mind its approximate dimensions of 40 meters by 50 meters, amassing up to 2,000 square meters, I've identified a plot of land in the town centre which could be the site of Luton's 1400-seat theatre as presented in this video. The site I have in mind is the west side of Power Court. Yes, you heard that right. Power Court. It covers this area, amassing 21 acres opposite St Mary's Church, the town's Grade 1 listed medieval church. The UK Centre for Carnival Arts, host of Luton's famous International Carnival. And the east side of the mall, Luton's shopping centre, known many years ago as the Yarndale Centre. Power Court used to be the site of a power plant, hence the name. Now that's a massive pair of coolers there. Even further back in time, its west side was the site of Luton's fire station, shown earlier in this video. More recently, the same site was the site of a furniture shop run by local homeless charity Noah Enterprise, while the east side used to house a number of offices and depots. Much of this site now, as of recording, is a car park used by members of the public. So clearly, this plot of land has seen a lot of change over the past 100 years, and wouldn't you know it, even more change is coming here in the next few years. You see, in 2019, Luton Town Football Club, aka the Hatters, gained planning permission to develop Power Court. The club's main goal here, pun intended of course, is the building of a brand new 23,000 capacity stadium on the east side of this site, raised to 25,000 capacity since September 2024, which will become the Hatters' new home ground, replacing the current 12,000 capacity stadium on Kenilworth Road about a mile away. It also hopes to see development on the west side thereof, which will include housing units, retail space, and a music and entertainment venue with a capacity to host 1,800 people. Now that's where our design for a purpose-built theatre in Luton comes in, or could come in. After all, we are just dreaming here. Psst! Disclosure alert. Just to be clear, Luton Town Football Club has not endorsed this video or the ideas presented herein. Moreover, as of recording, neither the football club nor its associated companies even know about my own existence in Luton, let alone that I'm producing a video that mentions their club's name and talks about the very plot of land they want to develop. With that said, back to the dream. Judging by these dimensions, it's clear that the foundations of Luton Theatre would fit here very nicely. Not only would there be enough space for the building itself, but there'd also be enough space for lorries bringing props over to drive beside it and park behind it. And it's not just lorries that would need to drive and park here if this theatre ever gets built. Touch wood. Vehicles carrying performers round the back to the stage door will need to as well. That's where cast members enter before and exit after their performances. And it's also where their superfans engage in stage dooring. However, there are a few challenges facing the potential theatre on this plot of land, as well as potential solutions to them. Firstly, the terrain on this side of Power Court is not wholly level from its northern end to its southern end, as you can see here. So the kind of excavation work taking place on the east side of Power Court, as of recording, would be required to make the terrain level on this side before any building work here begins. Secondly, there's a stretch of the River Lee that flows across the whole site, most of which has been culverted for decades now. A contractor wishing to develop this site would need to get a civil engineer to help them figure out what to do about the culverted stretch of the river on the west side of Power Court before going ahead with any development there. For instance, deculvert it, i.e. open up the river, and maybe reroute it, i.e. change the river's course, which would add to the overall cost of this development, as you can guess. Thirdly, it would be just a stone's throw away, or rather a football kick away, from a stadium that will host up to 20,000 cheering or jeering football fans. So soundproofing for the potential theatre would be a must. Lastly, Power Court is surrounded by a number of very busy roads, including this very busy dual carriageway along Church Street and St Mary's Road. To make this road more pedestrian friendly, the outside lanes could be repurposed, thus turning this dual carriageway into a single carriageway. This lane could become a bus lane, while this lane could become a cycle lane, for instance. Of course, all of these issues would be handled by people who know much more about these things than I do. After all, I'm just a video editor, remember? And now it's time to wake up! Well, that was a nice dream, wasn't it? With its flashy renders, intriguing calculations, and uplifting soundtracks. Not to mention my captivating voiceover, if you don't mind me bragging. Of course, in the real world, that might be all what you've just seen will ever be. A dream, shown in a YouTube video, shared on social media, and maybe gaining a few thousand views, likes, and comments along the way.
After all, building a brand new theatre anywhere in a town like Luton would be a very big investment. As much as £15 million. And as such would require a feasibility study to see if it makes any economic sense to do so. And as you can guess, one possible conclusion of such a study is that it would not be worth building such a building here as things stand. And besides, even if a contractor wanted to build a theatre based on the design you've just seen, touch wood, they would then have to hire a structural engineer to figure out how it should get built. And that engineer could easily decide to change this detail and that detail from the original design, so much so that the final design, and dare I say, the final building, might not look the way I've presented it in this video. It's a reminder to all of us that dreaming is one thing, while trying to turn your dream into a reality, if you get the chance to, is another. Nevertheless, I still believe having a purpose-built theatre in Luton once again would be a dream worth pursuing. And with all the time and effort I've put into making this video, you bet I do! But more important than my opinion is the fact that building a brand new theatre in Luton, following the loss of such venues over half a century ago, is long overdue.
You see, demand for a new theatre in Luton has been voiced by Lutonians many times over the years. In response to those demands, the council, back in the late 1970s, proposed to build an entertainment venue with theatre facilities right next to Luton Central Library. But as you can tell, it never materialised. The council's most recent proposal of an entertainment venue with theatre facilities in the town centre is called The Stage. Part of a wider development including new housing and retail space opposite Luton railway station, this building is billed as a multi-purpose music and community space. And one of its proposed facilities was this 400-seat auditorium. Well, it could have been raised to somewhere close to 500 seats. However, following consultation with the public in early 2023, they decided to ditch the theatre stage but keep it as a music venue accommodating 600 people among other things like a food court and office space. So just to be clear, the stage is going ahead, but the 400-seat auditorium proposed earlier is not. And there you have it. Another proposed theatre not materialising.
As a result, Luton's many performers in the fields of acting, music and others have been denied a major entertainment venue to showcase their talents in for decades. And if you ask me, this decades-long absence of such a venue is nothing short of an insult to the very town that brought forth all those talented people. This needs to change. And hopefully, with everything happening at Power Court,
which includes the 1800 capacity entertainment venue, which gained planning permission from the council along with the new stadium back in January 2019, and then gained official approval from the council, also along with the new stadium in December 2024,
it will.
Speaking of change, Luton's town centre has seen quite a few changes over the past few years, including the works going on at Power Court to make way for the new Power Court Stadium, and the opening of this pocket park called Hat Gardens in 2023 with a deculverted stretch of the River Lee flowing across it. About these flamingos, long story short, they're there to commemorate an indoor fountain that used to be found inside the Arndale Centre many years ago. See? Other than that, something else got changed during the making of this video. Remember this? Well, the mall, formerly known as the Arndale Centre, is now known as Luton Point, thanks to new management of the site. New management, new name. That's the point.
Moving forward, there are two things about Luton that I think need to change for the sake of its 200,000 plus residents. And they are its image and in turn its reputation. Like many Lutonians, I grew up in a town with a reputation as a crap town, reaffirmed by news articles with headlines like these ones. The end of humanity. I say, core blimey to that! Of course, this unflattering reputation is based on what locals and visitors see around Luton's town centre. And let's be honest, some of it, or a lot of it if you will, doesn't look great and hasn't done for a very long time. That's why I believe having an entertainment venue based on the design presented in this video could help change what people think of when they think of Luton, locals and visitors alike. Instead of being thought of as the worst place to live, Luton could be thought of as the home of this beautiful theatre, an amazing platform for entertainers from our town and beyond, and a wonderful venue for audiences from near and far. And with a building like this, I doubt many people would keep calling Luton a crap town, would you? Moreover, just like the long-lost corn exchange that inspired this design, it too could become a local attraction and a source of pride for our town for generations to come. This is my dream of a better Luton, which I hope will come true. And lastly, if you want to keep up to date on this dream and other dreams I have of a better version of my hometown, then follow Doable on social media at I'm Doable. And feel free to share your own dreams of a better Luton or a better town elsewhere in the UK or the world. So until my dream theatre becomes a reality for all to see and perform in, you bet I'll still be dreaming of a better Luton.